So today we're making scrunchies with hair ties, also known as ponytail holders. I've researched so many scrunchie tutorials and tried different methods, but I sat down and brainstormed my own way, and here's the method I came up with. It's definitely the easiest way that I've actually seen. It involves literally just one line of stitching. There's no hole at the end that you need to close or any fabric that you need to turn inside out. I created a printable template so I had something to cut around. I just find my cutting ends up being straighter and then I don't have to bother marking the fabric. So if you want to use my template, I'll leave a link in the description. But otherwise, the measurements for the scrunchie are 21.5 inches width and 3 inches height. So step one is just to cut out your fabric. Now head to your ironing board. First fold the top edge by 1/2 inch, then fold the bottom edge by 1/2 inch and iron the folds in place. Grab each short end of the rectangle and put them together. You can pin that in place. And sew about 2/8 of an inch from the edge. And remember that those folds that we just ironed, just ignore those. We want this line of stitching to be completely flat. Okay, now we've created a tube. Bunch the tube up and put the hair tie in the middle. And then line up the folded edges together. And pin that in place. Okay, and now all we're going to do is sew along the edge. And don't forget to backstitch at the beginning and end of this line of stitching so that it locks the stitching in place and it won't unravel. So I'm trying to get as close as I can to the edge. I'm probably sewing like 1/8 of an inch away. Definitely take your time as you're going around the curve. If you choose to put pins everywhere, at some point you probably will be stabbed. So I'm just going to warn you. Here's the other method where there's actually almost no pins, so I would definitely say this is safer, but there is a con to it, which I'll get to in a minute. So here I'm just using one pin to start my stitching, and then I'm folding the fabric together around the scrunchie as I go along. The downside to this method I found was that normally when I got right to the end, there would be like a bit of excess fabric on one of the layers, so I would have to create this little pleat to get rid of that excess fabric. You can't really see it in the final thing, but I just thought I'd let you know that this is probably something you'll have an issue with. I suppose a walking foot would help here, but most people don't have that. And there we go, we have our main scrunchie done. One line of stitching, that was it. Now it's time to move on to the bow. So after you've cut out the fabric for your scrunchie bow, fold it in half. You need to sew all the way around the open edge, but leave like an inch gap in the middle where the straight bit is. We're going to need that to turn this inside out. Then trim down the seam allowance, except the bit in the middle. And turn it inside out. Make sure you really poke the corners out so you get a nice sharp finish. I used a blunt pencil to help me with this. And now all we have to do is close the gap. So I pressed the fold so that the raw edges were hidden inside, and then I just top stitched along the edge. I wouldn't really worry about whether the stitching is visible, because when we tie the bow, this middle bit will be hidden anyway in the knot. And now just tie the bow around your scrunchie. And try and get the ends to be even. And now we are completely done. We have successfully made a scrunchie with a bow using a hair tie. If you make scrunchies using this method, definitely share some photos with me. I would love to see them. I'll leave a link in the description where you can post your photos. And if you learnt something new in this video, give it a like.